Hello, everyone. We're about to start. I see there are people who are already joining, and that's good to see. I'm also always happy when Hello, everyone. Okay, so why is that? We're about to start. I see there are people who are already joining, and that's good to see. I'm also always happy when Hello, everyone. So just trying to work out what's going on. I had a little bit of that hiccup. I'm just hearing myself again. Okay, this is still on. Yes. Okay, so just trying to work out. I have some participants who are joining in right now. Good to see. Let me see. Okay, if you're just joining us, thank you so much and welcome. And it's quite interesting to see this and the fact that there are people who we always join on time. It's always interesting. I love to do things and just start things on time. I do not believe in African time. And it's always so very frustrating most times when you go to events and then you have to wait and wait and wait. Sometimes you're waiting for like 2-3 hours. Seriously, some events you find out that they are not starting. And so it's always quite difficult. But today we are going to have a very interesting event. So there are so many things that need to be done, and Mr. Peter Obi is going to be on, sorry, I said Mr. Peter Obi, Mr. Nweke Jnr. is going to be on different platforms. And the interesting thing always is always capacity to be able to multitask and do many things at the same time. So it's also will be on what they call space, the search. So part of the thing, because it's such a busy time, and I just, okay, we're going to do it simultaneously. So while he's there, he's here, he's answering the questions. We are also over here asking those questions and getting him to answer them. He's head on Twitter Space. He's here with the few of us that are here on Zoom. He's also being heard on what do you call it now? On YouTube. So at least in that way, we are getting to have different people have this conversation that we all need to be having. And please, if you would like to speak, please, for now, while we wait for Nweke Jnr. to come in, kindly raise up your hands and we can have that conversation. And I will also go off to space to go see the start of that also conversation on space. So it's always very important that let's make use of all the things, all the time that we have, and use them effectively in such a way that every one of us we're able to get the most out of it. Like I always say, there are no bad weather, only bad clothing. So whatever situation you find yourself at, just make good use of it. Do something with it. Do something about it. So if you like to speak, just raise up your hand, and then we're able to, I'll just unmute you, and then you go ahead and let's have a conversation. I know there has been a lot of talk issue over this whole talk on, is it APGA, is it Nweke Jnr. and stuff like that. And there are a lot of people who have had mixed feelings, some feel different ways. For me, and this is something that I just don't say lightly, this is something that I say it and I mean it. Everything about me is what is the best for the people. And there are some people like initially like, oh, why are you supporting Nweke Jnr? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at them like, if I was not this person, you wouldn't have been so excited when I supported you. It would have been much easier to have supported other people while we started the race. But for me, it's never about what is most easy. It's always about what is the best for the people. And we have quite a number of people again who are coming in, who are joining. So please do raise your hand. If you can hear me also, let me know that you can hear me. And I don't end up having a conversation with myself alone, right? So let's also have that. If you can hear me, go ahead, let me know. And then if you'd also like to speak while we wait for Mr. Nweke Jnr. to join us. While we wait for him to join us. So the thing about life and the beauty, and this is why we wait for him, just for me to digress a little bit, is to say, let's always collaborate, which is something that somehow, I don't know why that is so. It's always so difficult in Nigeria for people to sort of like collaborate. There's always this thing about, oh, that's whether we need to compete, we need to, like, no, life is not about that. The fact that somebody has something, it doesn't take away from another. For example, when I see people and they say to me, oh, Aisha, we want to be like you, I'm like, no, you will be greater than me by the grace of God. Because of what use is it if you are just like me? We need greater. And then some people are sort of like, I'm like, if somebody is greater than me, it doesn't take away my own greatness. It just means the person have added more to what, and that's the beauty of it. And even like for me in my life, in my business and everything, I'm always like, if for example, I'm teaching you business and your business doesn't flourish more than my own, that means I've not taught you very well. If I'm teaching you something, or if I'm exchanging knowledge with you and yours doesn't get better than me, that means I haven't been a good teacher. That's the way I look at it. So it must always be. And the fact that your own is better than mine, or the other person I've taught is better than mine, it doesn't reduce my own. My own is still there. The universe, there's so much, if people remove the scarcity mentality and just take on the abundance mentality, it goes a long way. One person doesn't reduce another person's own. Your own is there and you're doing it. And so please, I hope, I'm not seeing any hands up, and I hope you guys are hearing me. Can you just even indicate that you can hear me, so that I don't say that I'm just speaking to myself, not knowing that I'm not being heard anywhere? Please, let me just give an indication. Let me know. Okay, fantastic. I'm getting that indication from YouTube. They are saying they can hear me, so at least I know I'm not just speaking to myself. Okay, yeah, Kosiso Chukwu, yes, I've seen your hands up, meaning that, okay, we have Nweke Jnr. Is coming in. I know Frank is, Mr. Nweke Jnr. is always one who is like on time for sure. I know that for sure, and it's really interesting we having him here and having this conversation. And hopefully this conversation, we are going to have it together. Like I was talking about, it's all about collaboration, it's all about working together. And I just did a tweet and I said, you know, Nweke Jnr. is one who would always make the most out of little. Yes, so even if you give him little resources, he will make the most out of it. He will use it judiciously. I'm not here to speak for him. He's going to speak for himself, but just explaining to you that right now he's multitasking. He's here. We are seeing this here on Zoom, also on YouTube. We're going to be taking questions there, and also on Space. And that's why I was talking about collaboration and how much it does help for people to collaborate. So we're going to have Nweke Jnr. join us now. I've asked him to unmute. Yes, he has.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my sister. Thank you so much, everyone. I've been listening to you for over 5 minutes, but
goodness me.
I was on mute, and unfortunately, I couldn't do it myself until you just permitted me. But thank you for hosting me at this time, and thank you for your kind words. Thank you so much, and thank you for all that you do for our country. God bless you.
Thank you so much, and welcome to today's program. Like I did say to you, we are going to be having something a bit unusual. You're being hosted by two different people on two different platforms. They will do a lot of the, so they will, how do I put it now? They will be like our overall hosts. So while they're speaking, I hope they're ready. I hope you're already on Space with them.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So like I did explain to Boma, I said, okay, what we'll do is have you, first of all, talk to us and just give us an overview of what it is that you're doing. Why are you running? What are you running for? What do you want? What should the people expect? And why the people should vote? Maybe give you like 10, 15 minutes for you to do that. And then they will take charge and just start with the questions and everything. And we'll just continue here. There will be questions, of course, from people who are here on Zoom. There are also people on YouTube and the Spaces, and we just take the conversation along. Well,
okay, thank you so much. I guess you don't want me to put on my video, right?
Oh, we want you to.
Okay, please, if you permit me, I'll do that.
Okay, I have not. So what do I need to do now? So this is always the problem. When it comes to technology, okay, let me see. I'm trying to, you can't?
And the host has stopped me from sharing.
Okay, so you know what will happen here? Let me just, should I make you the host then? I think because I did put that, sometimes, you know, people just come in and especially because the public, we made it public.
Yes.
And so I think what will happen, let me make you the host.
Or co-host, just make me a co-host.
I don't even know whether that capacity of co-host is there. They just say make a host. I didn't put that capacity of co-host. So, you see? I wasn't supposed to be the one to do this. Unfortunately, the person that was supposed to do this had some emergency health issues. So I had to stay all night to learn this. Yesterday, I couldn't sleep. So pardon all the things. I've made you the host, so I think you should be able to do that and be the one to mute. Why are you muted again? Okay, fantastic. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Well, okay, thank you so much. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone that is on the call. Thank you to the people, the participants on the Space. I feel really, really honored to have this opportunity to to speak with you and to have this conversation with you. So my name is Frank Nweke Jr., and I'm the gubernatorial candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. And I believe that a lot of you are very familiar with my resume. I think that, I've had the privilege of high office in our country, and perhaps one should just remind himself of where it all started from. First, as consultant to government on economic affairs in 1999, to when I became state coordinator of the Community County Council. The Community County Council was a poverty alleviation initiative for rural communities, which took me around the then 209 communities in Enugu. I subsequently went on to be appointed chief of staff to the governor of Enugu State for about 2 years and 3 months thereabouts, after which I was then nominated as a member of the federal cabinet. And I first served as Minister for Intergovernmental Affairs and Special Duties, then subsequently as Minister for Youth Development and Intergovernmental Affairs. President Obasanjo was not in the habit of leaving me anywhere for too long. He moved me again to the Ministry of Information and National Orientation. And then the last ministry in which I served before his tenure ended in 2007 was the Ministry of Information and Communication, where I was overseeing the telecoms sector, amongst other things, and in my capacity as chief spokesperson. Then when I left government, I went back to school. And that was when I went back to school in America to take a second master's degree in public administration and strategic management. And just as I was finishing from Harvard University, I was then approached and designated Director General of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, which is the most influential think tank in Nigeria. It's made up of Nigeria's private sector. They are the ones that are there. And in 2014, I ran for Senate unsuccessfully because I left after 5 years voluntarily. And so in 2014, I ran for Senate unsuccessfully. And subsequently, I went back to to pursue my interest in teaching, and of course, also managing some investments that I have in fintech and in construction. I've been doing that as well. But suffice to say that until my recent return to partisan politics, I was a senior visiting fellow at the Lagos Business School. I'm also a guest lecturer at the Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. I am on the faculty of the School of Politics, Policies, and Governance. And last but not the least, I'm also an associate professor at Gregory University in Uturu. I just love to teach. And the fact of the matter is this. The question is, after everything that I've shared with you, every experience that I've gathered, all the education that I've gotten, the nurture that I received, I must confess to you, my question is, so what? So what? So what? This, and I'm asking myself, so what? Because of the state of affairs in our country. I'm asking myself, so what? Because of the state of affairs in my state. It is terrible. I don't know about you, the people on this call, but I want to say that I am really heartbroken. Like everyone else, I've had these expectations. I've hoped so hard, that things will improve, things will get better. When I worked with President Obasanjo, a lot of things happened, and there was, like hope was renewed again. You found Nigerians in diaspora who started to return to the country, and we said, oh, finally things are on the upswing. But within 2 years of our departure, it was almost as if we never existed, as if that government never existed. So all the gains that were made in the economy, the gains made in the telecom sector, in the attempt, some gains in the power sector, the anti-corruption agencies, and the gains with national health insurance, all those things, just everything destroyed all over again. And when you come to my own state, I don't know how many people that are on the call that are very familiar with Enugu. I often describe Enugu as one of the most beautiful states that God created. We have the privilege of, being surrounded by a concentric circle of hills. Wherever you're approaching from is such a beautiful view. And you come into the city, it was planned by the colonialists, very well laid out streets, excellent nightlife, very clean city, water flowed everywhere. But that is no longer the case. In the last 8 years in particular, the state has been devastated by ineptitude and misgovernance. Our roads Enugu has become the pothole capital of the world, a pothole capital of Nigeria. a water crisis persists. I mean, my residence is in the so-called GRA, but there's no water here. So you go to the slums, there's no water. You come to the so-called reserved areas, there's no water. You go to where there's no water anywhere. In government house, water tankers are used to really get water into government house as we speak. Then you also have the issues around the overall infrastructure. You also have the issues around the hospitals as well. You get into these hospitals, it is terrible. The primary healthcare, you can come to some communities, you see a beautiful building, but nobody is there. The nurses are not there. The ones where you have nurses, there's no medication. The equipments are not there. But predominantly, a lot of people are not able to use these health centers. You come to the main hospitals, Park Lane Specialist Hospital, which is state-owned. You come to the Esut place, which uses the Esut Teaching Hospital. It's a shame. It's a complete shame. So these things are there. There's also the issues around teachers. As I speak to you, I don't know of any other state where the primary school teachers have been on incessant strikes for years because of the failure of government to actually cater to their welfare. And the question is this: if you have the foundation, right? If you have the foundation so uncatered to, nobody cares about this foundation, then what is happening? How can the secondary schools thrive? How can the universities thrive? And so for me, I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to this primary schools, right? The secondary is very important. Tertiary is important, but the primary school is the foundation. These children deserve to learn. They deserve to be taught by well-trained teachers. They deserve to learn in an atmosphere of dignity. They deserve to learn with the latest curriculum. All these are the things that we have in mind in that sector. Then when you come to staff welfare, you have a situation where pensioners, every community that I go to, you find the elderly who spend their entire time in the service of our state. They are in tears. They are cursing. They're so mistrustful of whatever you're saying. And the issue is, look, we don't even want to hear this. It's our pension. I'm saying, well, I'm not yet governor, but I pray that as your governor, I'll be able to meet your expectations, right? And then you look at young people. You have a lot of young people who have become hopeless. A lot of these young people who have become idolaters. And what do I mean by that? Because they have become so hopeless, because they have lost hope so completely, a lot of these guys now go to consult shrines and offer human sacrifice and offer all sorts of things because they're hopeless. And you find a situation where mothers and fathers who have spent their entire life nurturing children, right? In the twilight of their lives, they don't get pensions. The children that have sweated to train, they don't have jobs. So it's a double whammy. So the issues around youth empowerment, youth employment is of paramount importance to me. We have an SME initiative, which was, I must commend the current government for doing that, an SME initiative. But the problem is that you go there, if you don't come from the right language group or the right part of the state, then you're not eligible. Or you're eligible, and then people need to take money from you. And I'm saying this is not acceptable. So you find a situation where people are really, really frustrated. They are pushed to the wall from all corners. And so issues around skills development, around vocational studies, these are things that we're going to pay attention to. And of course, the issues around SMEs, people who have the talent, who have the interest. Not only are we going to be able to make sure that everybody is able to gain equally from the SME agency here, but we're going to ensure that even the so-called non-indigents, which is an area I must talk about. I don't want to hear this thing about non-indigents. I was born in Kano. I grew up in Maiduguri. I grew up in Lagos. I was never discriminated upon by anybody. I cannot see a situation where you now tell people that have lived here 2-3 generations, you tell me they are non-indigents, and yet they are contributing to the development of this state. Their fathers before them did. Their grandfathers before them did. And then at this point, you say to me, oh, they are non-indigents. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with it. And that's not going to be allowed to play any role in my administration. An area that is of major interest to me is the issue of food security. There's hunger, and our people are no longer able to go to the farms because of insecurity. So the security sector is one area that I'm really, I'm going to focus on 24 hours a day in the course of my governorship. Because look, within the cities, people are kidnapped. In West and North, people cannot sleep. Villages are sacked. You go to East Uzo, tons of people have been killed there, massacred, slaughtered like animals, right? And within the city, people can no longer go about without fear. And so the security sector is one area that will receive maximum attention because nothing can happen in an atmosphere of insecurity. If there's time on this call, I'm happy to explain in detail. But details of everything I'm saying to you can be found on my website, www.franknweke2nd.com. You're going to find my position on youth development. You're going to find my position on water, my position on security, my position on waste management, not only in writing, but also on video. And you're going to find all those details there. So agriculture is one area that I'm going to focus on, how attracting large-scale investment, but more importantly, empowering the itinerant farmers. And it is in this sector that the majority of our people are employed. In the case of Enugu, we have been dealt a very, very bad. What do I mean? I'm very much aware about how the northern states generally function. And I know that agriculture is the mainstay, as it is indeed in most parts of the country. The difference between Enugu and say a Kebbi state, a Zamfara state, a Bauchi state, an Adamawa state, and Borno state is the fact that the governments actually make sure that whatever is due to the farmers in these areas every farming season, that they get it. In Enugu, you're not going to meet a single farmer who will tell you that he or she has benefited anything from the sort of niche there to cater to the ordinary people, to really empower and encourage people to go to the farm, but that's not the case. So that's one area where I was sure that the city will help you to that. But if you ask me amongst all of these things, I'm going to say that there are three key areas, which is security, the issue of water, the issue of road infrastructure, and the issue of youth employment. The unemployment rate, this thing here, is so high. It's in excess of 50%. And that is when you combine the, what you call the unemployed, and then also the underemployed as well, right? And then when we talk about, say, youth development, I want to say this. Government can only give as many jobs, right? Government can only give as many jobs. If you employ everybody in government, you're not going to have any money to be able to execute any infrastructure projects, other development projects. And so what government must do is to create an environment for business to thrive. In the last 8 years, no new business, to the best of my knowledge, has come to Enugu. And I can also confirm that a number of businesses have packed up, have closed shop because of the poor policy environment, because of the poor security environment, because of the multiple taxation environment, and because of the poor regulatory environment. So new businesses are not coming in. The ones that are here are leaving. How will the youth get job? I was former Director General of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and I understand very clearly what must be done to create jobs. And it's not rocket science. And when I say it's not rocket science, ordinary citizens want to drive on good roads. Ordinary citizens want security. Ordinary citizens want water to drink. Ordinary citizens want to be employed. Ordinary citizens want to be able to get incentives to even carry on their lives. And so these are the same set of things that businesses want to be able to come to your state. And so we are going to market Enugu State aggressively and ensure that Enugu becomes the preferred destination for investors and investment in our country. So let me just, yes, please.
You also wondered who the lady in her was. That was Aisha, who is now with us on the stage. Aisha, welcome to the conversation. Some of you may already be plugged in and where I did training, but she's also here with us. Now, Frank, you said a lot there. One of the things I wanted to do was actually to go through the 7 core areas of the manifesto.
Yes.
And you covered quite a bit of it. When I did my sort of research, and I spoke to people about every person I spoke to, spoke very highly. I think your background and your track record is exceptional.
Thank you.
Based on what I've been able to kind of gather. And that sort of links to the topic of the room today, which is this idea of as the partisanship. And that's something I want you to quickly address. But we go back into this sort of 7 core areas of the manifesto.
Okay.
You want to give us a thought on sort of the sort of idea?
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. May I just ask who just spoke, please?
So
Very well. Okay. Thanks, Solomon. Thank you so much. Now that's a very I wasn't expecting that, but I want to say this, right? I don't know about you, Solomon, but honestly, I'm frustrated. I'm really, really frustrated about the state of affairs in our country. Yes, it affects people, depends on where you are on the social ladder and all that. It affects all of us in different ways. And for me, I was clear that we could not continue the way we are going today and expect to have a country in the next year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Nigeria sits on the precipice, honestly. This is my own view. And so in the run-up to these general elections, with the reforms, where INEC conducted elections in Ekiti State, in Anambra, in Edo, and Osun, I had very high hopes that, perhaps finally the right people would emerge, the reforms, the electoral reforms and all that. But as people began to emerge, again, my heart sank. I must confess, my heart sank. And for me, I'm 57, and I've had great opportunities. I come from a middle-class family, everyone very well educated. I'm the first member of my family that ever went to government. My father never came anywhere near government, but all of us received a decent education. But before our very eyes, the same schools I attended, I cannot send my children to. Before our very eyes, the things we took for granted when we were growing up, we can no longer take it for granted. I cannot take it for granted that I'm able to use a decent toilet in my house, and yet in your house, there's a slum where people need to use nylon bags to relieve themselves and do something you call weigh bill. So for me, in summary, it was clear to me that we needed people who are grounded, people who had the discipline, people who had demonstrable capacity to be able to come to government at this time. And that was why I did not hesitate, when I had the opportunity to say, you know what, you look at the presidential candidates, I was clear, based on everything that I had access to, information I had access to, that His Excellency, former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, represents in capacity, attitude, behavior, character, commitment, compassion. He represented everything that I would like to see in a president today. And that is why I came out to say that I was totally, frankly, and unapologetically obedient. It's about the survival of our nation. Our people are in dire straits. Our people are suffering. It is too much. And in the course of my electioneering campaigns, going around into the hinterland and everywhere, some of these places I had visited in the past, but going around and seeing mothers carrying 2-week-old babies in the market because there's nobody to help them, it breaks my heart. Going around the communities and seeing children, you can see that these kids are obviously starving. You can see their mothers also, they're starving, and you're almost helpless. In my own case, some of them I've literally adopted. Some of them I try to support with food, with school fees and things, but there's only so much I can do. It is the work of government. Government has the leverage. Government has the convening power, has the resources to really provide social amenities and services to this majority of these people who are vulnerable. And so in terms of issue of partisanship, for me, anytime, any day, I will go with an individual who has the capacity, who has the competence, who has the character, whose records are verifiable. I'll go with such an individual anytime, any day. So that's where I stand. That's where I stand. And I've always submitted myself. I'm happy that I don't know who you've been talking to, I'm happy but thank you for your kind words. But my late father, he passed on in 2012, he was 82. As a member of the federal cabinet, my father would write me letters. My father would call me and say to me, I'm proud of you, but please don't forget yourself. I don't ever want to hear that you're associated with any kind of malfeasance. And this thing stuck in my head. The Bible says, teach the child the path in which you want him to grow. In his old age, he will not depart from it. I think I'm a living example. I'm a living example. And it's the same way I was trained. It's the same way I'm training my children, telling them that they cannot afford to live in a world where people are pointing accusing fingers at them. So this is my worldview on the matter of the issue of partisanship versus competence. You know, all through our history, we've subordinated ourselves, you know, to parties. But for the first time, we have citizens like you who are asking questions, who are saying, no, enough is enough. And we must not desist from asking these questions. Even when these individuals have been elected into office, we must not stop. We must keep asking questions. We must keep holding them to account. That's the only way that this movement, this awareness, this new consciousness can be sustained. So this is my position, Solomon. I don't know what yours is. It would be good to hear from you what your own thoughts are.
I think one of the great things about this moment we have is that there's been a shift in consciousness of all Nigerians. And I think that that's encouraging for the future of the political landscape. I'm conscious of time, Frank, so I didn't want to speak too much. Aisha, I see you have your hand raised. I don't know if you wanted to come in. But one of the things that I wanted to do with this show, Frank, is I wanted to give the audience an opportunity to engage you as much as possible and ask questions and share their thoughts. And we'll be doing that shortly. But before we go there, let's sort of spend some time talking about the core areas of your manifesto.
Okay.
One of the things that you committed to is, you know, economic transformation. Now that sounds great, but what does it mean when you talk about economic transformation?
Okay.
Like, mention things like, you know, equitable and a just society, which again is something that I think most people would absolutely, you know, welcome. But I think the devil is in the detail.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, thank you. Excellent question, Solomon. Thank you again to everyone. Now, I'm going to tell you a brief. I'm going to share with you a brief history of Eastern Nigeria, and I'm going to share this history with you because it's something that has inspired me greatly, and it's about what happened between 1958 and 1966 when a gentleman called Dr. Michael Okpara was premier of the Eastern region. I mean, I absolutely love this man, and I think that that man has not been celebrated. I don't think that people have really dimensioned his service to Southeast Nigeria. And let me say this to you: this gentleman had a very clear vision and he understood that, you know, the thrust of his entire administration was on the concept of shared prosperity. And this really speaks to what I call the Igbo social cosmology, shared prosperity, that you may be prosperous as an individual, but if your extended family, if your brothers and your sisters would starve and not have water, and not have access to schools, and not have access to healthcare, and yet you can afford to have champagne in your house, that's not good prosperity, right? That's not good prosperity. And so Michael Okpara pursued a just and fair administration, a just and fair distribution of amenities across the length and breadth of the entire Eastern region at the time, which is made up of the current South-South and the current Southeast. It was remarkable, for instance, for me, that Michael Okpara, the way he treated the current South-South was the same way he treated the current Southeast and the current, the current South-South and the current Southeast. Let me read out a few things that happened within an 8-year period, the ones that I can remember as we speak. Between the 8 years, right, Okpara built the glass factory in Aba. Within the same period, he built the Michelin tire industry in Port Harcourt. Within the same period, he built the Trans-Amadi Industrial Estate. In the same period, he established the Hotel Presidential in Rivers State. Mark you, this man was from the current Abia State. He was from Umuahia, precisely. And yet, he was not focused on himself and his people. He was focused on the entire region. Within the same period, Michael Okpara was setting up the Hotel Presidential in Enugu State. He was focused on hospitality and tourism. Within the same period, he set up the current Oburukato Ranch. And yet 60 years after, we have these clashes, this conflict. We are unable to manage our animals, animal husbandry. We're still doing it in the most rudimentary ways, causing avoidable conflicts everywhere. Within the same 8 years, this same man set up the Emene Industrial Estate. He also set up Niger Gas. He set up Niger Steel. He set up the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Within the same 8-year period, this same man, he laid the foundation for the Calabar Cement Company, just as he completed the establishment of the Nkalagu Cement Company, right? Niger Sem. This man did all of this. He went down to Adani and set up the farm settlement, the same way he did in Iwariam in Anambra State, the same way he did in I think in Oji, the United Palms and all that. All of these things were done within an 8-year period. He set up the African Continental Bank. He set up the Eastern Nigerian Development Commission, right? And he did all of this. Look at all these far places. Some are in Abakaliki. He set up the government technical colleges. You know why I'm giving you this background? I'm giving you this background to debunk that notion that Enugu was conceived as some civil service state. No, look at how many industries were set up in Enugu. Look at Niger Gas, Niger Steel, the industrial estate. Look at the universities. Look at the hospitality sector. So when I'm talking about economic transformation, I am clear that in order for us to really make Enugu what it always was, right? A modern city where economic development was central to human development, that we needed to really ensure the resuscitation or the establishment and attraction of industry in these sectors. Whether you're talking about the industries, people manufacturing things, ceramics and tiles, whether you're talking about the cement company, whether you're talking about the hospitality sector. I mean, when you look at Enugu State today, Hotel Presidential, it's been stripped. The place is desolate. Now, am I going to go into that place as government? Very unlikely. But I believe that through public-private partnerships, we can attract private investment into that area. Then if you look at, say, there are certain areas we've identified that are very, very of great interest to young people. And what are these areas? These areas include filmmaking, for instance. Enugu was the home of Nollywood. But because the current administration did not know what to do with it, Nollywood has now moved on to Edo State. They've moved on to Delta State, where those governors, visionary people in their own way, built film villages, put out a set of incentives to really, attract investment in that area. I'm going to return Enugu, Nollywood to Enugu, by establishing a film village that is going to be second to none. We're going to look at the area of entertainment. Look at what Enugu has done with entertainment, for instance. Look at the number of young people that honed their skills here. Their talent was honed here, right? What have we done with them? There are a lot of people that these guys can mentor by simply creating additional studios, right, with private people where you can offer support, okay, where young people can even go and express themselves, express their creativity, and really hone their skills. You're going to be doing a lot to employ people. When I was, at the early stages of my campaign, we were looking for places where we could get jingles done. It could take you up to a week or two to get one jingle done. You know why? Because you need to queue up at studios. You need to take your turn at studios. And the rates were so exorbitant because there are so few. And so we're going to establish these things to enable people in the entertainment sector. The third area I want to talk about is fashion and design. You see the lovely shirt I'm wearing. It was made by a young person here. His name is Siben. And there are many of them. He makes beautiful stuff. There are many more young people who may be better than Siben, but they do not have the opportunity to really hone their skills or practice their trade. What am I going to do? We're going to establish, fashion, centers where people can share common services. What is my interest? My interest is to take these guys off the streets. My interest is to empower them. My interest is to help them mentor other people at the cost to government. My interest is to get these people, again, once they are trained, set them up, and then, of course, get them to train more people, to take guys off the streets, and they're going to be doing something that they really love to do. Of course, another area is the area of art, art, painting and stuff. It's amazing. I've attended a couple of exhibitions where I met medical doctors doing some fantastic job. Some of them have bought art from some of these exhibitions. Some have gifted me stuff. And it's amazing. And what it just tells me is that, this excessive focus on, if you're not a doctor, then you're not a human being. If you're not an engineer, then you're not a human being. No, we're all human beings. And God has given us these talents. So for me, I'm going to consciously encourage these guys to hone their skills and to really, so pretend what I call a cultural renaissance in Enugu State. The other thing is sports. Sports is one area that has been neglected. We need to resuscitate inter-house and inter-school sports, inter-local government sports, and all of that. We're going to rehabilitate, we're going to renew them. Make sure that we hone these talents in a way that we can compete nationally and globally. We're going to do this. Regrettably, for instance, I don't know if you ever spent time in Enugu. Our dear Enugu Rangers, the place where they used to practice in Liberty somewhere, the whole place has been converted to an estate. The Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium has been stripped. This Rangers International Football Club now has to go to Anambra in Oka to go and practice. How can this be? How can this be? How? But apart from this, it's a legacy club, but I'm interested in honing new skills. Of course, the area of media and ICT, when in the 21st century, it's the knowledge economy. The area of ICT is one area where I'll share my experience with you. The former CEO of Airtel had approached me 2 years ago, or about 3 years ago, and he wanted me to intervene with the state government to help them get right of way to lay fiber optic cable in Enugu. After 9 months, I gave up. They also gave up, and they had to go to Imo to go and do this, where that governor smartly offered them this right of way free of charge. Think for a moment, if that technology infrastructure had been laid here, what it would have meant for the media and ICT sector, for the knowledge economy, what it would have meant for the tech hubs we have, and for those who are who are interested in establishing similar tech hubs. So these are some of the areas where one is really focused on. Of course, the issue of technical and vocational education. I want investors to come, but the skill sets must be there. And that is why, if you look at a company like, say, Genesis Tech Hub, you look at another company like Zen Finance. What is my interest in these guys? My interest is these guys have thrived in spite of government. Government should support such initiatives. How can we partner to expand your operations, to mentor more young people, to train more young people, so that even working from Enugu, you can have employment in America, you can have employment in China, you can have employment in India. These opportunities are there. And when I'm talking about Enugu, please, I'm talking generally. Nsukka is a major hub. The University of Nigeria, Nsukka, provides great opportunity to actually create a tech ecosystem there, expand it in a way that will be beneficial to both the university, to the community, but also to the business sector. These things are there. A place like Ogu in the West, or Udi in the West, but I prefer Ogu because it's an emergent area to create tech hubs where people can be mentored, but the right tech infrastructure must be put in place. How am I going to do all this? It must be with the private sector. And I believe that coming out of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, my background, my network of contacts, my exposure globally, and with the help of a lot of people on this call today, we can put Enugu on the global map, market Enugu, after cleaning up the city, after ensuring adequate power supply, after actually putting in place the right policy environment, eliminating multiple taxation, ensuring adequate security, and really helping our young people to hone their skills better and be ready when the employment comes. We can put Enugu on the global map. And so the last but not the least is the area of agriculture, which I mentioned when I was reeling out our legacies. Of course, Enugu, whether you're talking about Uzuwani, fertile agricultural land, or you go to the plains of Aninri, you go towards the plains of Nkanu East and Nkanu West, where we have Uboka, you have Nara. All of these communities are known for either rice cultivation, yam cultivation, bananas, pineapple. And the former governor actually took advantage of this. He set up, in partnership with Carlos Farms of Mexico, Enugu had begun to export some bananas and some pineapple. But the moment the current administration came on, because of corruption and ineptitude, most of these guys left because they said they couldn't deal. Oh, what's my share? What's in it for me? For goodness sake, in the 21st century, dealing with global investors, nobody wants to hear that kind of thing. So one pledge I'm making to my people, and those listening, is this. I want to be held to my word. I believe that my background, my record of service already speaks for me. I've spent several years in the public sector, and my record is untainted, absolutely untainted. I have never had cause to be invited by the EFCC. There's no boss I have ever worked for that has found me wanting. Not one. My record of service is untainted. I have one home in Enugu from where I'm operating. There are not two anywhere else. Because I know I don't need more than one. I have that property I have is in my village. And every Igbo man of a certain age is expected to have a homestead. You must have, this is your obi. My late father had his own. I have my own. Because in our culture, the symbol of your manhood is that nige be for you and your family. And so I'm not an exception as an Igbo man. But these are the properties you have to my name at this time. At this time. If I acquire others later, I'm happy to declare them. But this is who I am. And so these are the areas that one is looking at. And every year under my governorship, it is my intention to have a marathon that will bring the world to Enugu. It is my intention to have an annual entertainment week, similar to what the carnival you have in Calabar. I was on a trip. I was a member of President Obasanjo's delegation, Donald Duke and I, when he stumbled into this carnival concept. And this was in Trinidad and Tobago some years back when we were members of the President Obasanjo's delegation, when we toured the Caribbeans, lobbying for their support for Nigeria to be elected into the Security Council of the United Nations. And that was when he saw this and laid his hands on it. Well, I'm going to give Calabar a run for their money because I'm going to have something even better here. And we're going to have an annual Media and ICT week because I'm interested in availing our people opportunity to see the latest developments in the ICT sector, in the media sector as well. And of course, we're going to push for a motor safari. I really love that. There's a place in Uzuwani, they have large expanses of land. And I believe that it is very conducive for motor safaris. What is the essence of all of this? It is to really push tourism, push hospitality, and really attract attention, bring global attention to Enugu as a way of also attracting investors. Because these things will be well packaged and well executed, and our people will be taught how to benefit from it. The same way taxi drivers are benefiting from the carnival in Calabar, the same way that homeowners are benefiting through accommodation, through Airbnb services for their homes during the annual carnivals, the same way the hotels are benefiting, the same way the food sector, the young people are benefiting because they provide a lot of support to these carnivals, right? These are the kinds of things we have in mind to quickly attract attention to Enugu, to really attract investment to Enugu, and to really show that we have the most beautiful state that God created. So these are, when I'm talking about economic transformation, these are areas that I'm looking at. And something else I want to say, when you look at my entire manifesto, I have chosen to keep it simple, really, really simple, deliberately. And why is this? I've chosen to keep it simple because you know what? Where we are today, all our people need is water to drink, just water to drink. Toilets to shit in. Excuse me, I don't mean to assault your sensibilities. I'm so sorry. Toilets. 2/3 of the inhabitants of Enugu live in urban slums. Those of you who may know Enugu on this call may know a place called Bonka. In this place, the use of drugs is rampant. Young women, do you know what they do for a living? They make babies for a living. They get impregnated, they have the babies, and they sell the babies and get pregnant again. That is what we have reduced human life to. You're talking about Obed Camp. There's a Camp 1, there's a Camp 2, there's a New Jerusalem. You talk about who decided. You talk about Abapanike. You talk about Uguago. You talk about Mbologu. You talk about Oloko. You talk about Jamboree. You talk about Agric. These are sectors where people live like animals. So I'm not interested in saying I want to build an aeroplane. No. I'm not interested in building an aeroplane at this time. What we must do is to lay the foundation for basic existence, roads, water, toilets, security, electric power, youth empowerment. These are the things that I believe that we must focus on at this time. The previous administration, with all civility and good conscience, did well. If the current administration had built on the foundations that were laid, we would have been talking about the more exotic things at this time. Unfortunately, I couldn't say so. So it's about the most basic needs of human existence, keeping it simple. And this way, it's easy to track. Another area where I think I should speak about, because in a way it is linked, is the management of the local government system. I've never understood why governors resist any kind of autonomy for local governments. And yet this is the level of government closest to the people. And in Enugu State in particular, the last 8 years have been a disaster of immense proportions. And what happens is that every month when the funds come in, after the attempts at saying, we had a meeting, the monies are drawn in cash before this current cash crunch. The monies are drawn in cash and stacked in Ghana must go bags and taken to government house in Enugu. If you have friends who are current local governments, chairpersons, if they trust you, they will tell you. If you have friends who were former local government chairmen or leaders, ask them, they will tell you. These monies are drawn out in hundreds of millions of naira and taken to government house. The implication is that the rural dwellers have no access to any kind of amenities, have no access to any kind of economic simulation of the economy there, because the monies that should be meant for servicing them is being taken away. And look at the constitution. Try to understand what is the role of local governments in Nigeria. And I'll tell you a few that come to heart. It's their responsibility to build roads, to clean up the streets. It's their responsibility to provide water services, the markets, clean it up, build the markets, the parks, cemeteries. These are the roles set out for the local government system in our constitution. Provide basic support to small and medium enterprises. But these things are not done. And so for me, I believe with every sense of modesty I can muster that I have come prepared through my work, through my experience, from all the, through my time as Chief of Staff, State Coordinator, Community County Council, my exposure at the Federal Cabinet, and my time as Director General Nigerian Economic Summit Group, advocating for good governance and the adoption of policies conducive to good governance. I believe that I've come well prepared. I believe that I have the maturity. I believe I have the discipline. I believe I have had the preparation to deliver good governance to Enugu State and to really, especially the vulnerable. Solomon, I'm going to say something else to you, something that's really close to my heart. Everywhere I've gone, 99% of the places I've gone in the course of my campaigns, the people that have shown the greatest interest, whether it's in the markets or in the communities, in the wards, have been women, mothers. And Solomon, if I had opportunity, I would go to share some videos with you, but some of these things are online on my website. You're going to find these women, these mothers, under the most terrible conditions, striving to eke out a living for their husbands and their children. I don't know what has happened to us as men, but everywhere you go is the women that are striving. You go to the markets, 99% of the people you find in these markets are women under the most terrible conditions. But let me tell you why it's of concern to me. It's of concern to me because you find that in spite of this burden they already carry, you find people who show up to say they want to collect taxes, people who show up, they want to collect levies. And woe betide these mothers and these women. These guys show up when they are yet to make out enough to be able to pay them the daily levies, their goods, their wares that you find on trays, vegetables on trays, groundnuts or cashew nuts on trays, tomatoes on trays. You find people who take these things away, who confiscate them, who destroy some of these things. It is these trays where you find people who do not even, some of those things may not be worth more than 5,000 naira. People have the heart to destroy these things. They destroy them. They destroy them. And it is not acceptable. And so I'm saying that these vulnerable members of society must be protected. These mothers must be protected through a family support program where I intend to ensure that they get a monthly allowance, however little, through a family support program, because I see what they're going through. The burden is too much. You're going to find young mothers with babies in their arms. Nobody's helping them. And so they have no choice. They must be there, whether it's rain or sunshine. And now that the rains are coming, I don't know what they're going to do, because normally they are by the roadside, they're in the open market. And even under normal circumstances, walking through those markets is something else. I've lost my voice for several months because I go back to these markets daily and the dust is incredible. I haven't recovered in how many months. And yet these women sit in these conditions with their children day after day, month after month. So I just thought I might add that when you talk about multiple taxation levies and extortion, let's not just look at big businesses. I'm more interested in this small people who are the most vulnerable and whose some of this misgovernance impacts them the most. So, I mean, this is just, sorry if I went on for too long. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. So when I have opportunity, I'm always. Well, thank you. Thank you.
That one kind of step back and look at because I can feel your passion, and it's clearly very authentic. It's coming from a very authentic place. I'm sure that people in the audience will agree. Look, we've done an hour, and I'm conscious of time, so I want to give people who have joined us today an opportunity to also speak to you and engage you.
Thank you.
So I can see Benjamin. You're there. I'm going to hand over.
Hello, Solomon.
Just hold on a bit before you go off to Benjamin. I'm back. Thank you so much, Mr. Nweke Jnr. for this elaborate explanation on the things that need to be done. Like Solomon did say, you have 2 hours. I know you're very busy, and we decided to combine this and do it together. So the next 1 hour will be more of citizens, asking questions. And please, please, please grill him as much as you want to. Those who are ready to serve must be ready to be grilled. Don't be nice to him. Bring everything on. He can accept those punches. I had raised before I go on, and I will come back I'll hand over to Solomon again, take a bit of question. We also have some people on the Zoom that have raised their hands. It's just to say, I had raised my hand earlier during the question of partisanship and competence. And I felt that wasn't a fair question to you. You, of course, you are partisan. So no matter what, you will ask that you should be voted for. But on a more serious note is the fact that we must understand that everything that we have had to, the problems we have in Nigeria has really been due to the fact that a lot of people have wanted to be partisan rather than focus on competence. And that is what we've said, no, we cannot allow that to continue to happen. And what we must ensure is that we are getting the most competent people for them to do the work and then hold them accountable when they get into office. So it's very important. I've seen there are some messages that have been coming on, a lot of people, there are some who have said, oh, if you were in another party, it would have been better. I'm like, okay, yes. And I love the fact where you reiterated the fact that you have been frankly obedient. And I've watched that. Even when most of the elite didn't believe in the dream that Nigerians were talking about, but you were there, you were talking about Peter Obi, you didn't focus on partisanship, you focused more on competence, and we must do that. There were a lot of people who did say that, oh, at the beginning, that, oh, it would have been so much easier if Peter Obi was still in PDP and all of that, but citizens believe that they are the ones that can make that choice, and they're going to choose the person who is most competent rather than whatever a party has given, and they went on that path. And I think as we think about all of these things, let's focus on that, and let's not shortchange ourselves as citizens who want to build a new Nigeria. Let's not toe the path of those that have come before us, who have put in their partisanship before competence. We must depart from that path and begin to look for people that will do the work. Over to you, Solomon. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha.
Good evening. Good evening.
This is Aisha. Before we go on, before we start asking our individual question, please can you kindly put your manifesto jumbotron so we can also have we can just look into it.
Can I do what?
Ask our question from there.
I
would like to look at the manifesto because I've checked your profile. The manifesto is not there. I was just trying to put it on the jumbotron. So if you can do that for us, that would be better for all of us. And I will see the yes. And thank you and God bless you.
Well, I'm not so sure.
Like the Nweke Jnr. Yeah, Mr. Frank. Let's keep it brief and leave it at. Yes, yes, I will. I just want to thank everybody, especially. I want to tell you that we're the ones wearing the shoe and we're the ones that knows when it hurts us most. I've followed Mr. Frank for some time now. I've listened to him. I'm one of the people that listen to his ideas, and I believe that he will make the good leader as far as Enugu is concerned. But just one thing, Mr. Frank, I would like to beg you, please, when you become the governor of your state, please listen to us. What Enugu needs is a listening leader, someone that can give us it, so that when we speak, he will hear us. So that when we cry, he will hear us. So that when we will, he will hear us. That is what we need. And I've encouraged all the people because I believe we a leader that will not share Enugu. Some people, to the so-called owners of Enugu, all people have suffered. And I believe that when governor, which will happen this time, you will see me in your office because I have a very clear blueprint on tourism and the way to move it forward. So because you're here, then your relationship with the so-called owners of Enugu, because I'm so curious to know, let's not pretend, because we know the mode still in that man still knows, we know that Enugu has its owners, I'd like to know what is your relationship with those people. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Frank, if you're there,
do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Oh dear.
Yes, we can hear you here. We can hear you.
Okay, I think it's.
Let me take the next. I am TJ. There.
Yeah. Do you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay. Do you hear me now? Okay. Thank you so much. So Benjamin, I don't know what you mean. Put the manifesto on Jumbotron. I don't know, because I just if you go to my website now, you're going to see a button. Download the manifesto. It's right there. www.frankwinweke2nd.com. It's right there. So once you click on that button, not only will you see my manifesto, you're going to see my videos, other things, links to videos on security, on water and everything. So, but if you have any additional difficulties, please, I'm happy to share the link directly with you. Now, it's also on Twitter as well. The gentleman that spoke after Mr. Benjamin said, yes, Enugu needs a listening leader. Well, my brother, I want to assure you that as part of my manifesto, I've also included in that manifesto the channels of communication. But it bears repeating here. It is my intention to have a monthly radio broadcast to the people of Enugu. And it's also my intention to have a quarterly town hall meeting across the 3 zones in the state. Zone after zone, we want to have a town hall meeting. And the whole idea is just to provide updates to the people, give them opportunity to, if we forget anything, to remind us what the issues are and then our promises. Even though, the office is going to be wired up, we're going to have a dashboard where we can track all these things on the go. Then every year, it is my intention to have what I call, is similar to what you have in the United States, State of the Union address. Call it State of the State address, so that even before the citizens begin to ask, we are providing the information that is required about the condition in the state. But we're going to, of course, have a feedback mechanism on the go, because you know what, I'm interested in knowing on a regular basis, is there anybody who has been harassed anywhere? Our security initiatives, is there anybody who is sabotaging it? Is there anybody who is being discriminated against? All of those things are going to be set up. So there is a feedback system on the go, manned 24 hours of the day, so that when citizens need help, you can intervene at lightning speed. So just bear that in mind, and please hold me to my words. Now, the other one is about sharing. My brother, the last person that spoke about so-called owners of Enugu. Well, I hope that you know that they're all in their camps. There's nobody who doesn't know where, whether it is Senator Jim Obodo, you know where he is. Whether it was my former boss, Chimaroke Namani, you know where he is and who is backing. Whether you're talking about the Nwodos, you know who they are backing. I am my own candidate. I'm the citizens' candidate. I'm standing by myself. I have no one behind me but the people of Enugu. And I will be in charge of my government. Who is in charge will not be in any doubt. So this is my assurance to Ndi Enugu who are listening. I'll be in charge of my government. I'm not going to disrespect anybody, but I will not sacrifice public interest, citizen interest for any individual interest or collection of individuals. That's one. And then the other, and that's why, listen, I'm really, really keen to remind us that, look, there's only so much I can do by myself as governor. And I realized this from the onset. And that's why the theme of my campaigns have been, arise, let's rebuild Enugu. Kunye kaidozie Enugu. We need the partnership of the people. I'm happy to learn that you have a tourism master plan. That's fantastic, please. I'm happy to, announce my number on this call. Let's be in touch. And I'm happy to look at this when the time comes for us to really see what great ideas are there and for us to work on this together. But if you look at the plans, say, on sanitation, we want to clean up the streets. We want to make sure that trash is not thrown out of the window, any moving car, anywhere. I want to make sure that the drains or drainages are not clogged. Now, that's what I like to do. But I know that we must reorientate the people to stop doing this. We must change the mindset to get our people to say, the partnership I want with you is a partnership where I want you to please collect your refuse, clean your drainages. We take them out once and for all, and subsequently nobody trashes anything there. But as government, I need to look at the waste management policy. I need to look at the waste management, the equipment and other things that we need. I want to look at the kind of leadership at the state waste management agency. So it's a partnership. If I want everybody to obey the traffic lights, I'll tell you an example that I have. So you're going around with campaigns. Naturally, you have security, the way our country is now. And so you get to a traffic light. And at the initial stages, my driver and members of the team feel, you're running for governor. And so you don't have to stop at traffic light. And I said, no, you can't. You have to stop. You're going to kill somebody or kill me even. And I said, no, you can't. And a few times when they forget, I remind them, the law is meant for everybody. And so if I as governor will obey the law, why would ordinary citizens not obey the law? So you have the moral rights, the moral basis to now hold people accountable, right? So for me, that's the kind of partnership that I want. I'm going to do my part. But citizens must do their part. And I will encourage them and provide incentives through good governance by providing the things that are needed. For instance, if you look at Enugu, for those people who are familiar with the state, we're going to a point where the street is being swept by motorized sweepers. Where are those motorized sweepers today? They have all been sold or stolen or cannibalized. And today, when you see some trucks that have been rented to evacuate waste, when you see the truck, see the people evacuating the waste, and see the waste, honestly, you don't know which one to evacuate. Is it the human beings that are evacuating the waste, or the waste you want to evacuate, or the trucks? It's that bad. It's that bad. Anybody who will relate to what I'm saying, you have the dilated, the most, oh my goodness, I don't know, it's almost like, why? How? You see the human beings, the risk that they run, the risk of disease. It's amazing. And yet all of these things have been taken care of previously. And that's why I said, I will keep it simple. Restore sanitation, clean all the streets, and teach the people how not to trash refuse out of the windows, in their backyards, out of the keke napep, out of moving vehicles. You can't. So even from the boundary into Enugu, people must know that this is not allowed in Enugu, and we will do it together. So these are my thoughts, and there's nothing that I have that is cast in stone. My manifesto is not cast in stone. So if there are new ideas, we're open. I'm happy to bow to superior logic and superior proposals. Why not? It's about, getting things right in our state.
Thank you so much, Mr. Franks. Solomon, let me just take this from here. We have people who have raised their hands on Zoom. Let's take about 4 people, and then we will come back and I will hand over to you again. So what we'll do here is that everybody will have 2 minutes each, please. We don't have much time. We have less than an hour. This has to be done within 2 hours. And we have less an hour already. So the first person is going to be Paul. Paul, please enable your speaking, your audio. You've not enabled your audio. Ali Benjamin, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Remember, you have just 2 minutes.
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, Aisha. Good evening, Mr. Frank Nweke Jnr. Like my name signified, I'm Mr. Ali Benjamin. Though I'm not from Enugu State, but I would say that I use all the whole 36 states because of the nature of my work. At least I only have a brief question to you. But before that, Aisha, I would like to deviate a bit.
No, Mr. Benjamin, you can't deviate. Can we focus on the question? We can deviate later on other programs. Because here it's about Mr. Frank Nweke Jnr. Go ahead and ask him the question. And then we'll... Thank you.
Okay, if you say so, because I have, before you started the P2B campaign and all the rest, I've been finding a way, to get in touch.
I do live program. We can get in touch on my own. This one is about Frank Nweke Jnr. Let's focus. Thank you. If you don't have a question, I can move later.
No, please. I do.
Okay.
I do. My question is along Enugu Otukpo highway. That place is like as if I don't know how to put it. It's as bad as. What are you going to do about that road? Because I believe the current government, they normally tell us it's a federal highway that they can do it. We that are using trucks, that road is nothing to write home about. That's number 1. 2, police brutality, police extortion on that road. I could remember seeing an old man of 70 years driving truck being, demoralized on that particular road. And the worst of it is...
Benjamin, you have 10 seconds left.
Okay. The worst of it is the security guys who are in the governor's house that demoralize this man, all because the man...
Thank you, Benjamin. Apologies, please. I will have to be very strict with the time. So that is 2 minutes that it's off. I will take more. The next person, please. That will be Chukwebuka. Chukwebuka. Yeah, go ahead and unmute, please, and ask your question. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, Ms. Aisha. Good evening, Frank. My name is Chukwebuka. I'm from Abia State, honestly. My question is, so I'm into I'm studying Java stack, and I'm in a private institute in Lagos State. So my question is, how will you help in providing something like this in Southeast? Like, if you go to Northwest, if you go to South, I will use Edo State as an example. The governor of Edo State tried to help an institute, Decagon Institute, and also they help their citizens to provide some stuff for them so that it will be easy for them to study software engineering. So how would you help in boosting software engineering in Southeast and also in Enugu? So because the youth need to enter into software engineering and tech, because it's making sense this time around, and globally, most software engineers Nigerian software engineers are employed globally. So I would want you to elaborate more on that. And also, we need to change our curriculum in primary and secondary school so that all these things will be taught. Something like CSS, HTML, and all the rest of them should be taught. The fundamentals should be taught in secondary and primary school. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very, very much. Thank you, Paul. Ali Benjamin, thank you so much. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Frank. Let's take 4 we've taken two questions. Let's take two more. Right. So that makes it 4. Then you answer. I think it's easier that way. It will make our work faster. So the next person I see here is Pascal Energy. Please unmute and ask your question. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we love you, Aisha. Frank, I was an ABGA BOT member for a few years. Have you been getting any support from them? I know they are not generally obedient. And also, what would be your advice for ABGA obedient Imo State members? Because we have an election that is coming up in November of this year. Thank you very much.
Just for me to say, he's here to talk about his candidacy and Enugu State. He can't go into Imo State. So let's focus the question on himself and Enugu State. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah. Has he been getting any support from ABGA members in Enugu State? That's the main question.
Okay, thank you so much. And you gave us 1 minute. I think the next person, Uchenna, you will be the last for now. And then when he answers, we go over to space. Solomon will take over. So Uchenna, go ahead, please.
So good evening, Mr. Frank, and good evening, Aisha. And thank you for the opportunity to ask questions and get clarifications. One is, I want to know what your plans are for the soft industry. Enugu used to be known for having high quality entertainers who had Peter Doce, Patience Ozoko, and the rest of them, and also in music. We also had people in sports, but these days, things seems not to be going in the right direction. So what are you going to do about that sector? Those sectors that rely on talents and opportunities, that's one. Secondly is that we have a system that people no longer get jobs based on their competence. What you see is who you know. So how would the recruitment system be in your time? Recruitment, first of all, into your government, then into every other sector. What are you going to do to ensure transparency in that area and also transparency in procurement? So I think we'll leave it there for now. Maybe hopefully we'll get other opportunities for other questions because I know I have very little time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uchenna. You actually left 42 seconds. Just to say that I'm sure you came late because all your questions were actually issues that had been addressed earlier by Mr. Frank Nweke Jr. But over to you, Mr. Frank Nweke Jr. You've heard the questions. If you have any place where I wrote some of them down, if you have any place where you don't remember, let me know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So first of all, Ali Benjamin, thank you for that excellent question. It's such a shame that 9th Mile to Otubo Road has been in that condition for over 2 decades. And you know, this takes me back to the issue of partisanship versus competence, right? And in these 24 years that this road has been in this condition, it had been under the PDP. And under this PDP, we had senators, we had members of the House of Representatives, we had governors, and yet that road has been like that, right? And so clearly you can see that it's not about party. It's really about competence, having the right people who have the knowledge, who have the discipline, who have the preparation, and who have the capacity and competence to lead a state. Now, clearly, the only good news I can say to you is this, right? Information available to me suggests that that road may have been awarded by the federal government of Nigeria. Now, if it turns out that that's not the case, I want to give a commitment that because the transformation of 9th Mile Enugu, the Nsukka to 9th Mile axis, in fact, starting from Obola to 9th Mile, in my manifesto, we are looking to create a logistics hub there. And that road is critical to the realization of that aspect of my manifesto. So whatever I need to do to make sure that road is done, at least the section into Enugu, I will do it as government because I know the impact it will have not just on the economy, but on our social life. I know the cost to business simply because that road has been in that condition for 24 years. The cost of vehicle repairs, the constraint with trade and movement and everything. So take that to the bank. You spoke about police brutality. Now, regrettably, this is something that has plagued our nation. And I think this was part of what led to the EndSARS riots. And if you remember, my position on the EndSARS, on the riot thing, was very, very clear. I abhor and condemn any kind of violence against citizens. The only reason why government exists is the welfare, the well-being of the people. That is why government exists. And so when you have a government that turns on its own people, such a government would not have my support. And when it mattered most, I stood up and I spoke. And under my government, such a thing will not be tolerated. I will pursue very, very robust and strategic engagement with the security services. I believe that through this engagement, we can get our people to behave properly, to show courtesy, civility, and dignity to our people. Now, the bad eggs are there. But let me also take this opportunity to say this. It would be wrong to condemn the entire security services. There are some bad eggs. And you remember what happened after the EndSARS riot, when because of the attacks against them, they withdrew for about 2 weeks. Again, there was a question of, we can't do with you, we can't do without you. And they had to come back after much negotiations. So we would engage them constantly, the aim being to protect the rights of citizens, the aim being to actually ensure that our people are protected, physically and psychologically. Mr. Chukwuebuka spoke about what support that one will give to the tech sector, people who are interested in tech. Well, this is one area in which I'm invested. I'm invested in fintech. And so also in the civic sector, as far back as I think it was 2018 or thereabout, I created a small, we started a small initiative called Nzuko Labs. And the whole idea was to see how we can begin to advocate for the adoption of the STEM curriculum in the South, in Enugu in particular. But more importantly, how could we actually, provide training and opportunity and access to both boys and girls within Enugu. And with the help of some schoolmates at the World Bank, some friends here and there, and of course, my own personal resources and the resources of people like Obieze Kwesili, people like Chinenye Uzoku, people like Nweke who works at Microsoft, we've been able to we've been making, steady impact on the especially secondary schools students here in Enugu since 2018. So it's an area in which I've been interested and I remain interested and in which I'm invested. Now, it's not out of place to provide incentives for some of our brightest students, provide opportunities for them. And we need to put in place a system to really identify them so that it is not subject to abuse. But generally speaking, we must find a way to review the curriculum of our schools such that this, let me say STEMAT. When I say STEMAT, because the creative sector, the arts sector is also emerging as a very important sector in human development and economic development and advancement as well. So that's what I have to say about that. Pascal Neji wanted to know about support from ABGA. Well, my sense is, look, I wish I could say yes, but it will also be dishonorable for me not to recognize that as there are individuals who have reached out to me on their own to say, look, Frank, we like your candidacy. Look, we have hopes that you do well. We would like to support you. And they have supported me as individuals, right? That's really what it is, regrettably. And then number 4 is, Nweke Jnr, you spoke about soft power. And as Aisha said, I've spoken about this extensively. It's one area where I believe that great opportunity exists, right? Enugu is a beautiful city. We have a lot of tourism sites, but people will not come to a dirty city. People will not come to a city that is without water. People will not come to a city where there's no security. People will not come to a city where there's no water. People will not come to a city where the road network is nothing to write home about. people will not come to the city where the first thing that you see, if you're driving into Enugu, our beautiful Enugu from Ugonyama, people coming from 9th Mile into Enugu, people coming from Onitsha into Enugu, the first thing that confronts them is one of the largest dump sites I've ever seen in the world, that where you have smoke-filled air because the powers that be decided to take away this refuse dump, to shut down the old refuse dump that was prepared and set out for the purpose. They took it and appropriated it for their private use, and then now came into the entrance of Enugu and decided to set up a waste bin there that is burnt every second of the day. You find smoke right on the road. The refuse is dumped right on the road. This is incredible. Who is going to come and do tourism there? How can you, that the background to these beautiful hills or the foreground to some of these beautiful hills is a massive refuse dump right on the road? How is it going to work? So talking about soft power, you must create the infrastructure. You must create the environment. The ambience must be welcoming. The ambience must be world-class. So we're going to take care of that because we understand tourism is critical for employment, for enjoyment, for development. It's going to create a lot of jobs as well. Now, the other area that you spoke about is entertainment, right? My intention is to make Enugu the cultural capital of the Southeast, right? Such that people want to come, not because the people are very hospitable, because you have some of the best hotels, you have some of the best workers there, you have beautiful sights, you have a nightlife, you have music, you have, food is really, really nice. So those are areas, and I've spoken about an annual entertainment week, an annual media and ICT week, an annual design week, when we'll bring the world, attract them here, an annual marathon and an annual safari, an annual film and entertainment week. All of these things would happen. And it's a no-brainer. These are things we will do with the private sector. Just create the enablement, provide the support. And that's why the convening power of government is so huge when you have the right people who know what should be done. My job is to identify people in that sector who have the knowledge we need, who have the experience, and together we work to bring the world to Enugu. Now, so sports, I spoke about, the situation, all of those inter-house sports, inter-school sports, inter-local government, interstate, all of these things are no more there, and it's not in the way that it used to be. We will resuscitate these areas consciously for the purposes of ensuring that our young people have the right, have the right opportunities. And look at what is happening globally. The sports sector is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so it's an area that I'm interested in, and we're going to do this. You wanted to know about jobs based on who you are. Well, my straight answer to you is that I'm not going to get involved in that kind of thing. I don't want to talk about myself too much, but I have the privilege of having a pan-Nigerian outlook. I was born in Kano. I grew up in Lagos. I grew up in Maiduguri. And I have friendships across the entire length and breadth of this country. And then if you now come to my state, for instance, Enugu, why would you discriminate amongst people? Not just as indigenous, but even Enugu is the capital of the former Eastern region. This state is what it is today because of the investments, the work, the sacrifices of people from Anambra, people from Imo, people from Cross River, people from Akwa Ibom, people from Imo, people from Abia, people from Ebonyi, people from Benue. People have lived here. Several generations have lived here. I don't think it is wise for you to begin to discriminate against people who have contributed to your development. I didn't grow up that much in Enugu. I grew up in different parts of the country, and I suffered no discrimination. So why should anyone within the boundaries of Enugu, under my governorship or my leadership, suffer any kind of discrimination? No, it's not going to work with me. And this is an assurance that I'm giving, right? The best and brightest will be given jobs, through clearly defined means and other conditions that will be set out. And in terms of procurement, the flagship of the Obasanjo administration in which I served was the reforms of the public procurement process. And that was led by no one else but Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, who left a huge legacy there. Regrettably, after we left, all those things were turned on their heads. but we must not stop trying. So under my leadership, the procurement process in Enugu will be transparent, it will be open. What needs to be on radio will be on radio, what needs to be on TV, when necessary online, with both or across all platforms, so that people can see. And if there is a grievance management process will be put in place. It's part of any effective public procurement process, so that when you have queries, you can say, this is what it is, and we need to trash it out. This was what I learned in the federal capital. And that is where that exposure as a member of the federal cabinet comes into play.
Thank you.
I'm happy to take the next.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fran. Before I hand you over to Solomon, there's a question that you missed, and that's from Chukwu Ebuka. His second question was on the issue of you changing the curriculum, primary and secondary. But before you answer that question, just to make a bit of a correction, NSAS protests, you refer to it as riots. They were not riots, they were actually protests. It was, let's not forget, I know there was a lot of gaslighting from the government. It was the government that actually brought in violence and meted it out. And one of the things I remember so much from the 2020, October 2020 NSAS period was how supportive you were of the youth and how you stood by the youth and called out the government for what they had done. But just to say, words mean a lot of things. So it's protest, and it wasn't a riot. Thank you so much, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Correction taken. Thank you. Thank you, my sister. Thank you so much. Yes, Ebuka, we're talking about hopefully you can access my manifesto. You'll see where I spoke about the STEM curriculum and how important it is. In several countries of the world today, in Sweden, in Finland, in Norway, they already, they have reviewed their curriculum several times to really align it with 21st century realities. And so today, we're regrettably still saddled with some of the curriculum that dates back to the 70s and 80s, all right? And this is an area we're willing to look at. So it's going to be education for what purpose? So we're going to pay attention to science, to technology, to engineering, to art, and then of course to technology as well. So your question is well noted, but this is well taken care of in my manifesto, and please hold me to my word. It's an area we must prepare our children to be able to compete globally in the 21st century. And it must start from the basics: primary school, vocational schools, secondary schools, and of course, the universities. Talking about schools, again, one thing that of our school research, whether it was by you or some other group, please, I'm not sure now, but I know I cited that report where the Enugu State University of Science and Technology, ESUT, was actually rated the 10th worst university in Nigeria. And when you interact with the students and hear the experiences, you hear I've gone there a number of times. I know some of those things, you see it. People are hanging by the windows. People are standing in the sun to take lectures because the auditorium is not big enough to hold them. People are forced to buy handouts. The faculty come in and go out as they like. Sometimes without any lectures, they are forced to take tests, and the women are molested. All sorts of things are going on. You find professors who plagiarize. They simply copy texts that are known and then force students to buy them. A lot of things are going on. We can't expect any good out of this kind of system. So these are areas that I'm going to look at, and then possibly see how we can create linkages with some of the world's most prestigious universities. We can create linkages, but these are things that you must pursue systematically, consciously, deliberately, because you have the interest, because you know what it means for our citizens. You know what it will mean for our state. You know what it will mean for our country. These are the kinds of things that are of interest to me, and you'll find all of these ideas I'm sharing with you in my manifesto on my website.
Yes, I am, Solomon. Over to you. Thank you.
Four questions from this platform as well, Frank, and then we'll get you to respond. So the first person actually is TJ, and then we'll go in that order with the rest of the team. TJ, are you there?
Yes.
Go ahead. Be concise to your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, Mr. Frank.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm TJ. I was born and bred in Ibadan. Spent a huge part of my life, obviously, in the UK. And so you can regard me as a diaspora.
Okay.
And my question is from a diasporan perspective, intersected with my passion, which is pop culture, right? As a pop culture enthusiast, I've seen great pop stars like Fino, Flavor, Runtown use Afrobeat, like we've spoken about, the soft power pop culture to project Enugu's vibrant culture and beautiful scenery to the global community. The boom and emergence of Afrobeat has penetrated and permeated beyond just African communities here in the UK. Videos like How Wobia gives me chills. I do not speak the language, but I felt the cold city. And this is the same for my cousins and nephews who have never, stepped the foot in Nigeria before. So it always bothers me that the government failed to capture the energy to further project Enugu as a destination for someone like myself. We come to Nigeria on holiday, we want to go to Lagos, Abuja, and sometimes dive straight to Ghana, right? And yet we have Enugu. So to be precise, my question, to be competitive and make you state the destination, what are the specific measures you have a plan to implement and market Enugu as a destination for diasporans? Because we have big spending power. As you can see, we troop in Lagos every December, and I do believe Enugu as a state I would like to visit. So regardless of my tribe, my place of origin, country of origin, state, to entice somebody like myself, and most important, my last bit, not just entice, become advocates and ambassadors of Enugu as a destination. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. Good old show, yeah. What's going on? Yes, thank you very much, Solomon. Thank you, Mr. Frank, and the rest of the listeners here. Thank you, Aisha. Frank, I've been following for many years, for over 10 years now, and I know that you actually mean everything that you have said here. You have everything it takes to transform any mistakes to that destination that we all desire. So for me, I just want to quickly say that you have so many things on your table that are planning for the state, and we are all proud of this initiative that you're planning. I just want you to prioritize that. There are areas, like we say, they are low-hanging fruit. You can quickly take advantage of and implement very quickly. So I just want you to focus on entrepreneurship for the youth, because we all know that it's the big motive from entrepreneurs to empower the youth, because today is about all the extras. Thank you, Aisha, for correcting us. It was about wanting to hold their leaders accountable. So I want you to focus on, prioritize based on your experience as the proper influence. And then I want you to start with entrepreneurship. That is the fastest and most sustainable way to empower the youth, because Enugu has young people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ariel Jones, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, Frank. I'm a resident of Enugu, although I live in the UK at the moment.
Okay.
The question I want to ask you essentially is that having dealt with several state governments in terms of proposals and bringing investors to certain projects, I would want to ask you how you intend to improve the ease of doing business. I will talk about specifics here. We brought MTA Capital from Czech Republic for the Enugu Trade Free Zone project in 2016, I think it was. I want to know, because the complaint we got from Prague was that the governor was asking for funds, right? Then there's also, on a personal level, there are businesses that are struggling with the cost of land, right? Not actual cost of the land itself, but the rate that the government, clear your land or to seek your vote. I want to ask you how you intend to improve, because the ratings that came out, and I didn't see Enugu State as one of the top 5, right, in terms of ease of doing business, because we clearly can't see a lot of business people are complaining about the state. I mean, you have a project like the Enugu Trade Free Zone where you have enormous potential for the 9 Mile Free Zone and the Akanibiam Airport Trade Free Zone. There's so much factories that's there, but the government is not doing it. So I want to know precisely from you how you intend to enable businesses to come to Enugu State. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, Adora.
Also, just to add, we have 18 minutes to the end of this program, please. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Frank.
Good evening.
Thanks for the my family's from Enugu State, so I'm very happy to have questions today. I have 2 questions for you. You spoke about the economic plight of women in Enugu and how you plan to improve their standard of living. My question is, will you have, are you making commitments to have a certain percentage of your team be women in order to know their direct concerns and needs? And my second question is that Aisha had mentioned that we shouldn't be partisan and to vote the most competent candidate into office. So I do agree. We must acknowledge that party politics does matter. No candidate is an island. So when we are competing against parties like the and APC, my question for you is, what are your thoughts on party politics? And as parties like Labour Party are being cultivated, should the strategy be to attract competent candidates like yourself to join the party versus splitting the vote? Thank you.
Over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you to everyone that has spoken. Thank you so much. Let me start with Adora. I'll start from the bottom. And I just hope that I got a sense of the last part of your question. But let me say this. You were asking me if I could commit to a certain percentage of my team members being women. Now, let me say, and this is, as our big brother and Mr. President, that's why I address him, Peter Obi would say, go and verify the fact that I'm the only frontline candidate who chose a woman to run with me. So between the PDP, the APC, Labour, and ABGA, I'm the only candidate that chose a woman. I didn't just choose any woman. My running mate has a PhD in administration. She has a master's in business administration, and she's a nurse by profession. And she's an extremely competent woman. And I needed to send the signal, make it loud and clear that under my government, that mothers, our women, our girls will receive priority attention. That's one. Now, that hopefully signals to you the potential makeup of my cabinet. Of course, it is my intention to let my fellow men understand that, I was speaking earlier, I said that everywhere I go, almost 95 to 99% of the people that come out to listen to you are mothers. But when it comes to sharing political offices, the men remember that they're the men. And I'm going to change it. I'm going to change this, right? I'm going to change it. So that's that. Now, the gentleman who spoke earlier and was asking me about how I intend to improve the ease of doing business in Enugu. I'm as concerned as you are. I mean, of course, as a former Director General of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, you can expect that I have this. I'm very familiar with this area. In terms of ease of doing business, based on the survey done by KPMG, I think Enugu is ranked 27th, and on the one done by Budget, Enugu is ranked 26th out of 36. And that is not good enough. And what is this ease of doing business? What is this ease of doing business? Just for the benefit of those who may not be familiar with that term or that expression, the ease of doing business is a set of conditions, right, that are prevalent in any particular domain or jurisdiction, which are meant to attract investment, which would, are meant to encourage, people to troop to that state, businesses to come and invest. And cost of land, of course, is one, but more importantly, the time frame, the speed, how quickly you can get a land title is also even very, very important. Under my government, I stated clearly in my manifesto that land titles will be issued not later than 2 weeks once we verify that an investor is serious. And we must be clear that if that investment doesn't take place within an agreed period, it's going to be documented, we're going to revoke it. Because we also don't want speculators, people who come take a CFO from you and then they disappear. And then maybe when you leave office, then they show up and say, oh, we had a title and they want to. I'm not going to accept that. But in terms of genuine investors, I want to assure you that we're going to look into the cost of perfection of titles. A lot of people have complained about this as well. The Chamber of Commerce here has complained about it, and it is interesting to hear you raise it as well. So we need to look into it and see how we do something that is affordable and something that would help to attract investments, because we need to attract investments to really begin to stimulate economic development here. Now, the other thing that puts people off, I'm glad that you said it yourself, not me. So it doesn't sound like I'm looking for adulation, right? You're speaking about the people that you brought in and why the checks, why they had to leave as far back as 2016. And this is a story we've heard time and time again. There was a farming group called, I think it's the Carlos Farms, Don Carlos Farms or something. And Enugu had begun to actually export bananas and pineapple. They left under the current administration because bribes were being demanded. Bribes were being demanded. What's in it for me? You must have discussed something with the previous person. So what's my own court? They packed up and left. Today they are in Akwa Ibom and they're doing very well. And when you speak to Carlos, the Mexican guy, very interesting fellow, he was saying, he shared with me the plan. The plan was that the next phase was going to be the establishment of a cattle ranch. Because back home in Mexico, they found that cattle love the husk from pineapple. So since they were producing so much, right, hundreds of hectares, they wanted to now say, okay, let's plow this back into the ranch. But all of these things were aborted because of Onrashi. For those from Enugu who know what Onrashi means. Onrashi, when they come, the governor does something like that, tell you that they want to do this and do that. I mean, it is totally embarrassing. So they left. And in leaving, the entire people, all the people employed, they had to leave. Imagine what would have happened if in the last 8 years, that company had continued to thrive. There was also the Songhai initiative somewhere in a Zago local government called Nweke, in a place, one of the most beautiful natural settings I've seen, clear blue water lake, very clear blue lake is there. So, and the former governor started to implement this Songhai initiative. I looked at it and I said, beyond the Songhai initiative, this thing can be a health farm and provide tourism opportunity as well. What happened? Again, it was the same issue. What's in it for me? What's not in it for me? And then those guys left. I can also tell you about some of the tech initiatives that I'm even involved in. We had to head to Lagos because of similar demands. So for me, the issue of bribery and corruption and the emplacement of personal interest above public interest would have nothing to do with me. It cannot thrive under my administration. And any member of my team that is caught would have to make an example. That's the only way you can prove that it's not with your commission, it's not with your corporation, and that you're not part of it. So anybody that engages in any kind of malfeasance, I'm sorry to say, I'm going to come down really hard on. Otherwise, you cannot prove that there's no complicity in it. And so talking about doing business generally, look at the judiciary. The sector, the conditions under which they work is amazing. It's incredible. The infrastructure, the equipment, the conditions of service. How do you expect them to dispense justice efficiently, quickly, without having the right conditions of service? So I'm interested in the speed of resolution of disputes. I'm interested in the sanitation in the city. I'm interested in basic infrastructure. I'm interested in, of course, ensuring that the skill sets required for these guys to work, that it is available. All of these things, I'm interested in eliminating multiple taxation and extortion. All of these things must be eliminated in order to create the ease of doing business that you require to make things attract business here. But last but not the least, we must market, and I'm going into the next, I think a question that was asked, the first one. I'm going into the issue of marketing Enugu. I had the privilege of, as Minister for Information, implementing the Heart of Africa project. I don't know how many people on the call may remember that, but that was my first time. That was the first time that Nigeria was consciously managing its image. And we had good reasons to. This was the dawn of the First Republic. A lot of reforms were taking place. We were paying off our debts. We were really sanitizing. We were fighting corruption aggressively. Our economy was growing at the rate of 7%. We were on the roll. And so we traversed the world, telling the world that Nigeria was back. We had been readmitted into the Commonwealth of Nations. We had been admitted into the OAU, to African Union at the time. We had been, ECOWAS again, So all of these things were happening. Our embassies were beginning to function again. Our people, their confidence was being restored globally because of what was happening at home. And so for me, Enugu is a much smaller space. And with my background coming out of Ministry of Information and working with the private sector, people who would help us really, advise us on how to project the state, we would have to market Enugu aggressively to attract investments in the economy, to attract investments in entertainment, attract investments into agriculture, attract investments into hospitality. We need to market Enugu aggressively. And I'm going to be needing the help of the first gentleman, that's TJ. I'll be needing the help of people like you to really see, if you have any radical ideas on how we can achieve this quickly, because I'm in a hurry. I'm really, really in a hurry. The youth unemployment is very high. The restiveness is palpable. The mistrust, the trust deficit is very, very high. It's not lost on me, even as you speak to them. You can even see some of them, you can see on their faces, almost like, here they come again. And I find it embarrassing. But what I often say to them is, please, I've never been governor. I'm asking you to give me a chance, but let my background, let my track record speak for me. The way that I served as minister, the way I conducted myself as minister, let that serve as a kind of reference that, okay, let us give him a try on the basis of this record. So this is really the way it's playing in my head. Of course, it's documented in my manifesto. Udokiri, I take your advice. The issue of youth entrepreneurship is very, very critical. And that is why I think it was on a radio program earlier today where I was speaking, how regrettable it is, for instance, that when you come to the state SME center, you find that there's a lot of discrimination there. People will normally benefit depending on where they are from, what part of the state they are from. And even when they manage to get through the very extremely cumbersome processes, they are made to offer bribes from what they have been given. So you might get 100,000 and somebody takes 30,000 off you or 40,000 off you. If I hadn't put in a word, they would not have received it, right? And so these are the things that, these are the ways in which I want to tackle this. I'm just looking at my notebook. Yeah, so in my manifesto, I have something called the Enugu State Development Trust Fund. And this is what I had in mind, to create that trust fund for the purposes of, really investing in youth development, youth entrepreneurship, and youth empowerment, right? And I'm also in this respect, really trying to see, how do we partner with existing tech hubs, for instance? How do we partner with, say, fashion and design houses to provide mentorship and opportunity for young people? How do we partner with accomplished companies in different sectors of the economy who are well known? It was something that Dr. Obieze Ekwesili tried to do when she was Minister for Education. And part of the key reforms was to identify major companies that are done well and to say, okay, please, can we sponsor as government a number of young people month by month, year on year, or depending on the cycle of training at the expense of government to really learn skills, learn business management, and then government sets them up using its own finances. And then we put them through this supervisory calendar where people go and check on them as a way of enabling them to move on to the next phases once they are found, once it's found that they are, that they've managed their businesses satisfactorily. So I know we have just very little time to go. I'm going to stop here, but I know that when there are questions put on either my Twitter handle or my website, we normally from time to time we check and make sure that we respond appropriately. But I'm happy to take the next, maybe if we can take one or two more questions. Maybe, okay, we're not able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Nweke Jnr. I don't think we're able to do that because we have just 3 minutes left and you have other programs.
Yes.
It was tough getting you to do this. We will not shortchange. We will be the Nigeria that we want to see. So I will give Solomon 1 minute to give his final thought, and I'll also take a minute, and that will be it. Hello,
Thank you.
Mr. Solomon.
Thank you so much.
First and foremost, I want to thank Frank for giving up his time this evening. Frank, good luck to you. Like I said, I've been very, very impressed with what you've been able to achieve in your career thus far. And I've got no doubt that the passion you have will continue to yield positive outcomes for you and the people of Enugu. I want to thank the people in the audience as well. Please kindly follow the White House family and follow the mods and our speakers. Follow Aisha, both on YouTube and on this platform. And we look forward to having you again on our next show, which will be on Monday. Aisha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Solomon. You actually left up to 20 seconds, so that's going to be tough for me. So myself also, I'm going to take just 1 minute and to say, Mr. Nweke Jnr., thank you so much for coming here and speaking. And we will hold you accountable when you get into office by the grace of God. And anything less than 50% of women in office and youth also, it's not acceptable. So we need representation, women and youth. I have an agenda, and my agenda is women and youth. And of course, we hold you accountable. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined. Apologies to those who raised their hands and were unable to take their questions. This is how these things happen sometimes, but hopefully we get to see Mr. Nweke Jnr. when we'll be able to say to him, Governor Nweke Jnr. I say to people, this is the time for us to ensure we are choosing the people that we know when we protest to them, that they will listen to the people and do the needful. We must have a country where the child of nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody, and my 1 minute is up. So thank you so much, sir, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. I'm deeply honored. God bless you all.
God bless you, sir. Thank you, everyone.